States on porch.
Everybody please remain standing for 1 second. I'd like to take a moment of silence for Braden Westgate, who was a CIT in training at our day camp that passed away on July 22nd at day camp. Thank you.
No video.
So nice to see people here again. Thank you for coming out.
Roll call.
Sorry, my turn?
Roll call.
Jeff Renahan, First Ward. Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Michael Safone, 4th Ward.
Stefan Krakow, 5th Ward.
Ann Schersch, 6th Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, attorney for the town.
Sarah Ryan, Vandewater and Vandewater.
John Basley, Town Supervisor. Welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. We have a list of public hearings. First public hearing tonight will be on Cablevision of Wappingers Falls, DBA Altis. The second public hearing will be Town Code Amendment, Chapter 210, adding vehicle fueling station floating overlay district. 3 is public hearing of property maintenance of 52 Brooklyn Farms Road. 4 is a public hearing of property maintenance on 22 Susan Lane. 5 is a public hearing of historic designations of 5, 15, and 19 Conklin Street in Hamburg. 6 is set a date for a public hearing on the comprehensive plan update. 7 is approved the retirement of Colin Bell from the police department. 8 is set the date for public hearing, Chapter 159A, property maintenance, 72 Marple Road extension. 9, authorized Marist College Family Weekend. 10, waived liquor license for E-Crab Inc. 11, approved the Round Hill Road Block Party. 12, authorized tax search settlement to Rupson Corporation. 13, authorized annual Arlington Street Fair. 14, set a date for a public hearing, Town Code Amendment, Chapter 195, Kinney Road School Zone. 15, appoint Jessica Moran, the sub-registrar. 16, set a date for a public hearing, Town Code Amendment, Chapter 108, Filming and Photography. 17, retain Zarin's amendments for Schatz redevelopment. 18, consent lead agency Dunkin' Donuts, Vassar Road. 19, adopt the base proportions. 20, accept the donation from Allison Floyd Adams for the senior citizen program. With that, I'd like to make a motion to suspend rules for any item on the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody who'd like to discuss any item on the agenda that is not a public hearing? Doreen?
Yes, I have a question about agenda item number 17, and that is the hiring of David Cooper Esquire for the proposed pilot for the former Schatz property. So I'm not exactly sure what this redevelopment is, and I don't know if you're going to discuss in any detail tonight, but this is at 427.
Doreen, unmute yourself.
Doreen?
It said the host muted me.
He's in the back room with the thing trying to figure out some video stuff. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
all right, I'm not sure what you heard. So number 17, the hiring of attorney David Cooper for the Schatz redevelopment. I did not hear that at any previous meetings discussed, but, so maybe you'll talk about what that is. But anyway, that's, $427.50 per hour. And I don't see any maximum amount on here, so, in the resolution. So is this just like unlimited? How are you, is there a cap on this?
There's not a cap at this time, Doreen. This is a project of the Schatz redevelopment that it's got some different zoning issues on it that we want to address, and we're going to use them in the very beginning because there's a lot of stuff that we didn't seem to understand. So once it gets to a further stage, things may change, but the county hasn't taken that property over yet, so there's nothing committed. It's still in the hands of the original property owner and going through the foreclosure process, and the county hasn't taken it because it's still working with the DEC, the EPA, and other state agencies to get it changed over. So it's a rather complicated, rather large project. So we felt it was outside the realm of our typical, zoning attorneys.
So it sounds like it's very preliminary, but they're already talking about a pilot, and is that part of why you're hiring the attorney?
That and just a project in general. The pilot would not be a typical pilot, so it's something that we'd have to look at. We don't know that much about. I didn't know that much about, and Mike Safone, myself, Mike Welty met with them. So it's in very preliminary stages now, just to see where we're going to go with it.
What I can tell you, Doreen, is they're not looking to build new buildings, they're looking to rehab the existing buildings on the property. So they're looking to save and use the original footprint.
Okay, well, I would hope that there's some discussion at some town board meeting so the public would be aware.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I would hope that at $427 an hour, someone is tracking legal expenses. Thank you.
We will be tracking, Doreen, and we probably won't be having much discussion until the county takes the property, which they have not done yet.
All right, thanks, Jay.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else? No? You make a motion to resume the rules?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 1, Cablevision of Wappingers Falls, for DBA Altice.
Second, so moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody that would like to discuss Cablevision of Wappingers Falls? If not, I'd like to make a motion to close.
So
Oh, somebody here?
Kenneth Peterson, did you want to speak on Altice?
No.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Anybody like to discuss public hearing number 1? If not, I'd like to make a motion to close public hearing number 1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie was party to a franchise renewal agreement effective as approved by the Public Service Commission on May 16, 2005, New York State PSC case number 3V0009, the agreement with Cablevision of Wappingers Falls, Inc., Cablevision, pursuant to which agreement Cablevision was required to pay franchise fees to the town, and whereas the town was conducted an audit of the payments made under the above agreement for period January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2018, which audit indicated that the town was owed additional monies by Cablevision for franchise fees during the term of the agreement, and whereas Cablevision advised and maintains that it properly paid all franchise fees owed to the town under the agreement, and whereas both parties wish to avoid the risk and expense of litigating the issue involved, now therefore be resolved, the supervisor is authorized to enter into a settlement and release agreement providing for the payment of $90,000 to the town of Poughkeepsie in settlement for the franchise fee dispute under agreement, and on such other terms as may be acceptable to the supervisor and the attorney to the town, and on receipt of payment to rescind its finding in resolution 2-03 number 8 of 2021 and its February 4th, 2021 notice to cure. So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to public hearing number 2. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 2, Town Code Amendment, Chapter 210, adding vehicle fueling station floating overlay district.
Second?
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to discuss public hearing number 2?
I'd like to read into the record an email that somebody sent me and asked me to read it in, and then I'll just mention the other emails, and then we could go on there. Jim Greaves sent, it's pretty short, it says, "Thank you for taking the time to draft the proposed law and listening to the public input from our town's residents. The proposed new law on vehicle fueling stations was written to keep the hazards associated with gasoline stations away from the homes where town residents live, entertain, and create. Neighborhood children play in their yards, and the additional traffic on the town streets needs to be considered. The carcinogen properties and the volatile nature of the gasoline being stored and transferred at vehicle fueling stations has no place within 500 feet of residential properties. Several studies have shown that the vapors from these fuels cause health problems in the residents, especially the children who live within several hundred feet of these facilities. Everything that can be done to keep the fueling stations away from homes should be done. Any other board in this town should not have the means to shred the laws that the town board puts in place to protect its residents from these types of dangers. Every resident who has spoken on this matter has been in favor of the new code. It is always the few outspoken people who bring about the change that others might not know will affect them positively. Therefore, I would like to ask every member of the board to support the change. Sincerely, Jim Greaves." And I received 8 emails from other people that are in favor, and that is M. Hyra, Ann Lynch, Scott Frank, Linda Mack, David Robinson, Robert James, Amy Hobson, and Kevin Williams.
Thank you.
Next. Anybody else that wants to speak, or you might have been included, and all these emails will be put in the record. iPhone user number 32913.
Mr. Robinson.
Hello?
Go
Hello?
ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Robinson.
Yes, David Robinson.
Yeah.
I live on 12 Dream Drive. It's been a whole year or more that I've spoken against these backyard gas stations. I'm honored that the town board is listening. I thank you very much, and I simply ask that you cover the entire town with this new law, not just certain areas. Every house and neighborhood in our town deserve protection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish?
I would like to speak. Linda
Go ahead,
Mack.
Mrs. Mack.
Okay, although I guess my name was mentioned, but I also would like to say I strongly support the new law that will limit gas stations from encroaching on our residential neighborhoods. All residential neighborhoods of the town need to be protected, not only for their health and safety, but also for their quality of life. Residents purchase their homes in areas that are attractive to them and safe, and expect there will be no changes. For many, it's a lifetime commitment, and we hope and expect our local government officials who were elected to do the right thing and protect us do what you have proposed and will legislate. And I truly thank you for that.
Thank you. Anybody else wish?
Anybody else that wants to speak?
Hi, my name is Marion Kozlowski.
Go ahead.
I also am opposed to the proposed Stewart's gas station at Southgate Drive and Route 9. And, you know, I don't understand why this is even up for negotiation or discussion, since it was only 2013 when the town board enacted the legislation requiring the 500-foot gas station, space between gas stations and residential property, which was designed to protect the health, safety, and quality of life in our neighborhoods. I mean, has our health, safety, and quality suddenly lost any necessity here? I just don't understand what the issue is, why this is even up for negotiation.
Is that all you have, Marion?
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
I too have been opposed to this, and for at least the past year, I've been attending these meetings before COVID, when you had
Hey,
a
Mary.
meeting in, yes?
This is a local law to change the code for motor vehicle. It's an actual code amendment. This isn't really anything about Stewart's. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. So you oppose this amendment, or you're for the amendment?
I am opposed to the gas station. Well, I think that the 2013 law that was enacted should be stay in place. I don't think it should be repealed to allow gas stations to be put within 500 feet. So I'm not sure
if what you're asking, am I against it or for it, I think that the 2013 law should not be modified to allow gas stations, whether it's Stewart or anywhere in the town of Poughkeepsie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Al Hobb?
Yes, hi, this is Amy Hobson Aguirre, and I just want to thank the town board for considering this proposed amendment. And just please take into consideration the safety and health and well-being of all Poughkeepsie residents. So thank you for your time. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doreen?
Yes, I am in favor of any protection for town residents when it comes to these fueling stations. I've talked about this many times, and I think that you have to be careful when it comes to encroachment of businesses into residential neighborhoods. The only thing I'm not sure of is why this is still 500 feet, and how would that prevent the zoning board from giving a variance for 25 feet or 100 feet? So I'm not sure about that, but I am in favor of any legislation that is going to help the town residents when it comes to gas stations in residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen.
Pete Mack?
Hi, good evening, Peter Mack at 206 Over Rocker Road. I don't know if you remember, but I'd like to refresh your memory about speaking about this about a year ago. The U.S. has a very poor track record of recognizing health hazards. I mean, I spoke about, the turn of the century radium paint, which was used to paint watch dials and also was touted as a cure-all. It was even used as a cosmetic until 18 and 19-year-old girls started having their jaws, come apart, bone cancer, and dying at such an early age. Lead paint was, touted as a great, lasts forever until we found out the hazards of lead paint. Asbestos, hey, it's fireproof. It was, used in tiles. It was used in gypsum board until we found the hazards with that. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about gasoline. And obviously, I know we've spoken about vapors being hazardous. I also like to speak about, what about, every time you fill up your gas tank and you pull that nozzle out of your car, what happens? A little bit spills on the ground, sometimes a couple drops, sometimes a little bit more than that. That's very hazardous. Several friends of mine who were in the Coast Guard and stationed out at, Coast Guard Air Station Cape Cod, remember being out there and, also with fixed-wing aircraft. And back in the 70s and 80s, if the aircraft, that they didn't do the performance planning correctly and the aircraft was overweight, let's just go over to the edge of the ramp here and dump some fuel out right onto the ground. Well, a lot of my friends in their 40s and 50s were, came down with cancer. Colorectal cancer, mouth cancer. I can even send a link to it. Back in 1993, where a study found high cancer rates out at Cape Cod, and it's linked to definitely environmental concerns with solvents in the, in the ground. I mean, this is a real health hazard. I work as a corporate pilot for Raytheon Corporation, which owns Pratt & Whitney aircraft engines. The engines that are being built today, and one of the aircraft I fly, it's a Sikorsky S-76 helicopter, which has a Pratt & Whitney 210S turboshaft engine on it. All the engines that are built today versus which ones were built back in the 70s and 80s, at an airport, when you go to shut down the turbine engine, there's a little bit of fuel that doesn't get through the combustion chamber and would end up being dumped onto the ground. Today, all aircraft engines that are being built have an ecology can that grabs that fuel, drains it back into an ecology can, and on the next aircraft, engine start, it's used from there, versus going on to the ground on the tarmac, at an airport. Now think about this. If the U.S. and all these aircraft manufacturers are taking the concerns at an airport, which isn't near a residential area, and we're talking about building gas stations within 500 feet of a residential area, what are we thinking here? What's going to happen when we have young children in these neighborhoods, or even adolescents that are gonna come down with cancer later on. Are we gonna realize the error of our ways? I implore the board to go ahead and enact this moratorium and to go ahead and don't allow this to happen. Gasoline and people just don't mix. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Is there anybody, excuse me, anybody else that would like to speak on this matter? Anybody from the public that's here, other than Zoom? Okay, Ken?
Come on. No, come on up.
So, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address you in person. I'm not here.
Ken, just state your name for the record.
Sorry? Oh,
Okay.
my name's Kenneth M. Stenger, and I represent Malabar LLC. Malabar LLC is an entity that owns property on Route 44, right across from an existing mobile station, that received a site plan approval and special use permit from the ZBA and the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, was then sued by some of the people that speak in favor of the statute, and in fact, at the last meeting, one of them said, I believe the whole purpose of this statute is to shut down Malabar. So that's a fact that I brought to the attention of this board the evening that you adopted the moratorium. I don't know, apparently I didn't bring it as effectively as I thought, but I wanted you to know that there was something out there other than a new application, but an application, in fact, in which had received approvals through the town process, had spent about $275,000 removing the oil tanks during that process. And I think, Mr. Carlos, I've never met you before, but I believe I sent you the materials you requested with respect to the removal of those tanks. My client spent $120,000, and I sent you the receipts from that, because I know that clients will tell you things that don't always add up, and I don't know if you've run the ad on that, but my client also spent $120,000 on removing asbestos from the existing buildings, all during the planning process, without an approval, but needed to be done in order to get that approval. And then, indeed, the approval was granted. And then what happens next is why I'm here, because my client is not opposed to the statute. He's not in favor of it. I'm neutral on that. The question is, under all of these circumstances, is it necessary that my client's application presently pending before the planning board be included in this change of the law to secure the benefit to the town that I think so many people speak eloquently to and about when they thank you for the work you've done with respect to this? That's the question I raise. That's the question I bring to you. So we go back in time, we have the approvals. Now we get sued. We get sued by many of the people who speak in favor of the statute and against Malabar here. We win. The trial court says, no, the town of Poughkeepsie was right. The planning board was right. The ZBA was right. They take it up on appeal. Two separate appeals, one for the ZBA and one for the planning board. And I sent you copies of those decisions. And they're important decisions, I think, in the context of what we're doing here today, because the town of Poughkeepsie was actively a litigant in these.
We're at 3 minutes.
Sorry?
We're at 3 minutes, if you could
Well,
generalize.
It's hard to say generally, because the bottom line here is I wanted to read to you a few things. I wanted to read to you something from the decision that the town supported and won on appeal. And it says that with respect to my client's application, the court says, contrary to the petitioner's contentions, the grant of the application had a rational basis and was not arbitrary and capricious, even though the proposed variances were substantial. And the applicant's alleged difficulty was self-created. The evidence before the ZBA supported its findings that the proposed construction would not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions or otherwise result in the detriment to the health of the neighborhood. That's the finding that this town litigated in favor of and won. And won. By the time that was all done, the appeals had expired. And the reason why that's important is because it goes really, quite frankly, to the end stage of this, which is, I've asked since the beginning, please ask your professionals, is it necessary to put my client out of business in order to give to the town the benefit that everybody in this town wants? And I went through the record that I'm looking at tonight. I've sent you a letter that I think you all might have gotten yesterday, making clear that we all understand the legal theory that I'm espousing. I'm not going to go into that, but what I did do was I just looked at the resolution. And the resolution is supported by a proposed secret finding, which says, in part at paragraph 18, the proposed action is not anticipated to be inconsistent with the existing community character. You have a court decision that you supported that says the proposed Malamar, that the Malamar application, as approved, is consistent with that character. And if you pass this law, which primarily outlaws my client from having a gas station within 500 feet of the existing Gasland gas station, then my client's out. And that is, frankly, a change in the community character based on the decision that this town won. And when we go to a little further down the road, and actually, well, you still look at paragraph 18, the secret findings is very clear. It says that it makes it clear that the secret findings are looking to any future land development. Malamar is not future land development. Malamar is something that was approved. It expired because of the litigation. It's in front of the planning board seeking to be reapproved when this moratorium came in December. So your secret, and more critically, and most critically, there's another decision that I gave to you.
It's at 6 minutes, just letting people know.
All right, I'll wrap this up very quickly. I'm sorry, but this is, my client's got a bunch of money and a legal principle at stake here. I don't know anybody in the Coast Guard. All I know is what the law is.
Just wrap it up.
And so the bottom line here is that you have the planning board. The planning board considered these matters for a secret finding, found that the use of the property that Malabar wanted to use, and as approved, was a neg deck, did not have a negative effect on the neighborhood. That secret still exists. It doesn't expire. It's a finding made by the planning board. And so when I went through this, what I just read today was I was looking, is there a discussion here anywhere where somebody says, we looked at the planning board negative declaration, and it doesn't hold here because of this change in circumstance. Or we've looked at this decision that we supported for the ZBA, but it doesn't hold here because there's a change in circumstance. I didn't see that examination anywhere in what I read tonight. That doesn't mean it's not someplace else on the record, but I didn't see that. And I ask you, before you vote on this, if you vote to exclude my client, he will continue in front of the planning board, and everyone who is opposed will still have their rights available to them. If you include my client in this statute, in this proposed change of statute, my client is completely shot, completely dead. Everything he's worked for with this town for the last 6 years is gone. And so all I'm asking here tonight is that in the process of doing something very, very good, please be careful not to do something by mistake that is contrary to what you've wished in the past and my client has relied upon. So I thank you very much for letting me go over the 6 minutes.
Thank you.
I'm an old person. That
Hey,
happens.
Ken, You had mentioned that you sent a letter to the town board. Did you say yesterday? I didn't receive anything.
I sent a letter, we emailed a letter with the cases that I just read to you. We emailed a letter with the cases I just read to you, an affidavit from my project's architect explaining how the adoption of this statute will put my client's application out of business. And we sent it yesterday to Jay's office on
get it?
August 3rd, 2021.
I picked it up at 5 o'clock tonight.
Oh, okay, I didn't, usually sometimes when we get things like that, they copy the town clerk.
No, it was-
board.
I picked up the
So,
document tonight.
no,
Okay, just checking.
that's what I sent out.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving me a little extra time to make my point.
Do you have anybody else, sir?
Anybody else want to speak on this item? Anybody else? We have somebody coming from the audience.
Hi, Georgette Martin.
Georgia,
And-
can you move the mic down a little? Sorry.
Georgette Martin, from Ward 4. And I was wondering if anybody done a traffic study on how this gas station is going to change the flow of traffic in the neighborhood? Anybody?
This law doesn't deal specifically with any one project.
This is a zoning amendment for gas stations within the town. It's
For
not specific.
all?
Yes,
Oh, okay, because a lot of people came because they're concerned about this gas station.
correct.
And I was wondering if we could get a traffic study on how it's going to change the traffic in this area. Because there's already a lot of traffic.
And that was brought up at, I think, the last public hearing. Somebody else brought that up.
Yeah,
A traffic study and have an updated traffic study, if it's for that project.
Mhm.
You know, this is for the one zone. If you call, I can find out if there was a study, but this is for
this is a public
all
hearing
gas
for-
stations
yeah.
in the town,
Oh,
not
okay.
one direct one.
So they had a study?
Whenever they go in front of the planning board, most of the time they have traffic studies,
Mhm.
but when it was updated, I don't know that answer.
Oh, okay.
But we can find out for you, though.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any comments on number 2?
Nobody else?
Nope.
If not, make a motion to close public hearing number 2.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Fowles.
Resolution 84, number 2 of 2021. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie has been undergoing a comprehensive review of the town zoning law as relates to motor vehicle service facilities as currently defined by the zoning law, which includes gasoline filling stations and other facilities that sell gasoline. And whereas the Town Board recognizes that gasoline filling stations and facilities that sell gasoline, hereinafter referred to as vehicle fueling stations, are a necessity for the continued economic function of the town, but that responsible legislation is necessary to properly integrate such stations into the local community and the town's land use patterns, and to regulate station development and preserve and advance the public health, safety, and welfare. Whereas the town board has worked with the Director of Municipal Development and consultants to formulate draft amendments to the zoning law with the goal of allowing vehicle fueling stations to continue to operate in the town without unduly impacting community character and local transportation networks, particularly in residential neighborhoods, as well as in a manner that is protective of the general health and safety of the town. And whereas the town board has been considering amendments to Chapter 210 of the zoning law by adding Section 210-42 entitled Vehicle Fueling Stations, VFS, Floating Overlay District, as well as make other related amendments to Chapter 210. And whereas the proposed amendments creating the VSF floating overlay zone are attached hereto in the form of a local law and incorporated herein, and that the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said local law, does direct that said local law be spread across the record as if they had in fact been read verbatim. Whereas the action to amend the zoning law is a Type 1 action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas the proposed amendments were referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development pursuant to Section 210-155 on May 10th, 2021, and to the Town Planning Board for review and recommendation pursuant to 210-154 on May 8, 2021, as well as adjoining municipalities pursuant to Section 210-155 on May 8, 2021. And whereas the Town Planning Board provided the Town Board with an advisory report on the proposed zoning amendment on May 25, 2021. And whereas the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development provided the Town Board with a report and recommendation on the proposed zoning amendment on May 26, 2021. And whereas the Town Board made changes to the original draft based on comment received from the Town Planning Board, the Dutchess County Planning Department, and the public. And whereas the legal notice of a public hearing was posted on May 11, 2021, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on May 20, 2021. And whereas the Town Board conducted public hearings on the proposed amendment and local law on the following dates: June 2nd, June 16th, July 21st, and August 4th. And whereas copies of the attached local law were provided to the Town Board members at least 10 days ahead of the adoption of this resolution. Now therefore it be enacted that after reviewing the proposed local law, annexed environmental assessment form part 1, comments of the public during multiple public hearings, comments presented by the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, as well as comments from the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, and all other materials and information set forth in the attached negative declaration. This board has determined that adopting this local law would be consistent with the town plan, would facilitate the appropriate and orderly beneficial future development of the town, and would not result in any potential significant adverse environmental impacts, and authorizes the supervisor or his designee to answer no to each question of the Part 2 of the EAF, and to complete the Part 3 negative declaration, as well as for the appropriate town staff to file and distribute such negative declaration with the NISTEC, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and other necessary parties pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And be it further enacted that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to duly noticed public hearing on June 2nd, June 16th, July 21st, August 4th, at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does hereby adopt by local law a zoning text amendment to Chapter 210 to add 210 sub 42 entitled Vehicle Fueling Stations, VFS, Floating Overlay District, attached hereto as Exhibit A, and be it further enacted that the Town Board does hereby waive verbatim reading of Exhibit A, and does direct that the said local law shall be spread across the record as if it in fact had been read verbatim, and be it further enacted that said local law, if adopted, shall take effect upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to public hearing number 3, Brooklyn Farms Road, property maintenance. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 3.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to
If you want to
discuss?
speak, come on up to the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Charles Zabo. I live at 50 Brooklyn Farms Road, right next door to this house. The reason I believe that the condemned signs are on that house is because my wife and I initiated a complaint about the stink coming out of that house after Jerry Prothro had been living there for about 4 years with no utilities whatsoever. No electricity, sewer, water, heat. He was just in there. So we initiated the complaint, and at that time, after it was condemned, the town told us that they were going to maintain the property. Then COVID came along. So we put it off for a while. Well, it's gotten pretty bad. And I appreciate the fact that you're considering taking care of the grass and all of that sort of stuff, but that's not the greater problem. The greater problem is there's junk cars on the property. They brought in a crew of out-of-state labor and put this huge deck on the back with no regard for permits or code or anything else. The inside of that house, it's locked up now so you can't really smell it, smelled terrible. We couldn't enjoy our back deck because the smell coming out was so bad. And Jerry used to throw some sort of liquid off the back deck. Don't know what it was. Anyway, the house, from what the town police told us, after they took him out in handcuffs one day, is that the place is full with every imaginable kind of junk, so it's probably a breeding ground for vermin. And lastly, there's a swimming pool, an in-ground swimming pool in the backyard that's long since collapsed. All the construction garbage from the house went into that swimming pool, broken glass, everything else. The kids cut over from Schofield Heights through that lot to our neighborhood to see their friends. Fine. I holler at them every once in a while to watch out, because if they fall in that pool, they're really going to get hurt. That's a greater problem. There's a lot of stuff going on around that house, more than just the cosmetics of cutting the lawn and picking up the brush. I appreciate that you're considering it. I'd like you to look at the greater problem now, as opposed to just doing the cosmetics. And lastly, Bill, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come down and see us that day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No?
Nope.
Make a motion to close public hearing number 3.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Sabella?
Be resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie, pursuant to a public hearing held on August 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Overrocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, under Chapter 159A of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code entitled Property Maintenance, does hereby determine that the property located at 52 Brooklyn Farms Road, Town of Poughkeepsie, County of Dutchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 615902, 6957570000, owned by Vivian C. Prothero, is in violation of Code Chapter 159, Property Maintenance, 159A-4. It be it further resolved that the said legal notice of public hearing was posted on July 15th, 2021, published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on July 21st, 2021, and mailed to the owner by certified mail, return receipt requested on July 9th, 2021. And be it further resolved that said determination is based on the presentation and report submitted at the public hearing by the Town of Poughkeepsie zoning administrator. And be it further resolved that the said owner of 52 Brookland Farms Road has not complied with the order to remedy. And be it further resolved that the town shall, by its highway department or a town contractor, cause the removal of all garden waste, fallen tree limbs, and shall cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 12 inches, and to continue maintenance thereafter if the premises continues not to be properly maintained, the cost of which shall be added to the property tax bill pursuant to code, Town Code 159A-7. So moved.
Second.
Motion second.
Mr. Supervisor, if I might, I think this particular house, I've been there several times, could do with a review by our building department, as we've seen other derelict kind of houses be reviewed, that this might be subject to safety issues with respect to the building itself and the people around the building. I'd like to see that take place, and then a report to the town board.
I also made a note on here, Bill, to call the Board of Health, in reference to the pool.
And I'd like
other
to then
things.
make sure that the neighbors know when that report's gonna be given to us.
Right.
I think, I am not a contractor or an engineer, but I got real close and personal with this building, and it reminds me of the one we had on Marple Road Extension, okay? I think we're at the point where we have to think about the implications of that, and if it's necessary and there's no other way to fix it, then the house has to be removed. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Make a motion to open public hearing number 4, 22 Susan Lane, property maintenance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to discuss 22 Susan Lane?
Anybody for 22 Susan Lane? No.
No?
No, there's people.
Make a motion to close public hearing number 4, 22 Susan Lane.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held August 4, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, under Chapter 159A of the Town of Poughkeepsie Code entitled Property Maintenance, does hereby determine that the property location of 22 Susan Lane, Town of Poughkeepsie, County of Dutchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 6159-04-501117-0000, owned by Charles C. Long Jr., is in violation of Town Code Chapter 159, Property Maintenance, Section 159A-4. And be it further resolved that the legal notice of public hearing was posted on July 15th, 2021, published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on July 15th, 2021, and mailed to the owner by certified mail return receipt requested on July 9, 2021. Be it further resolved that said determination is based on the presentation and report submitted at the public hearing by the Town of Poughkeepsie zoning administrator, and be it further resolved that said owner of 22 Susan Lane has not complied with the order to remedy, and be it further resolved that the town shall, by its highway department or town contractor, cause removal of all garden waste, fallen tree limbs, and shall cut and continue to cut the grass to a height not to exceed 12 inches, and continue maintenance thereafter if the premises continue to be not to be properly maintained, the cost of which shall be added to the property tax bill pursuant to Town Code Section 159A-7. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any questions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to public hearing number 5, historic designation 515 and 19 Conklin Street, New Hamburg. Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody here to discuss public hearing number 5? Mr. Pinna.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for given us the opportunity to share this with you. I'm John Pinna, the town historian, also I'm the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. And of course, one of our tasks is to look at the history of our town and to try to preserve buildings and sites that are historic to the town to keep the historical character of the town. New Hamburg has a unique characteristic in the town. There are others in the town as well, but New Hamburg is very unique. It has a long history of business involvement in the town. It has a history and a characteristic of the town that goes back to the 1800s, 1800s, and has been very much a important part of the business aspects of the town over the centuries. The housing down there is also unique. There's such a variety of architecture and housing in the town, and particularly in New Hamburg. So one of the things we are trying to do is identify housing throughout the town, but particularly at this point in New Hamburg, we've been looking, because there are houses there that are not grandiose mansions, which is usually what preservation commissions do, is they bring in these grandiose mansions to save. But there are houses there that are great examples of workers' homes that were built through the century, and the three that are before you are examples of that. These are homes that workmen lived in, the average townsperson or American. And we felt that it's important to bring these forth and preserve these for the future, so people can see how the ordinary townsperson lived and what their homes looked like. So you have monuments of documents I gave you, so I'm not going to go through all that, all right, because you have all of that information. But I encourage, the reason we're bringing them to you is because we want to maintain a unique aspect of the hamlet of New Hamburg, which is the workman's reality of what took place in the town. And so I bring that forward to you, and I encourage us to continue this movement to preserve our town history as such. Thank you.
Mr. Pinna, if I may, I just want to thank you for being proactive. I've been on and off the board for a long time now, and I always found it sometimes frustrating that we have these things, and really a lot of times we don't sort of rev up and get involved until something's about to happen. So I like this. I like doing it ahead of time when the owner and the town and the Historic Preservation Committee is in sync, because this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to preserve our history and make it there for our children, our children's children. I like the idea of preserving the workers' house, because it's sometimes that gets missed in things. Like, you go to see the Vanderbilt mansion, that's great, but that's not how most of our families lived in this town. So thank you for taking the time and the effort to doing this ahead of time. I look forward to seeing more of these come through. And I remember with the Abraham Ford House, literally the wrecking ball was parked right next to it. And we should never have that as a situation where we got to kind of hustle just to save something that shouldn't be destroyed. So thank you for being proactive, and I encourage you to do more of these, because it is a good thing for us.
Thank you.
If I have, Mayor, just a question, because I'd like to have it on the record. The property owners involved in this are aware of this and are supporting it.
All of them have requested that their homes be landmarked. And that's one of the things we do at the Preservation Commission is we start with the owners. We always look and seek that the owners are interested in doing this.
Okay, fine, thank you. I have to compliment my fellow councilman's comments. Historic preservation is important, because once it's gone,
That's right.
it's gone.
I guess I just want to add what Stefan said. It is true, like New Hamburg, it's like a hidden gem for some people that haven't been down to, the southern part of the town. Some people think it's in Wappingers, but like I said, it's the town of Poughkeepsie, and there is a lot of charm down there in the hamlet, and I was glad to see a lot of good history. That paperwork they put together was fascinating to read, and like I said, I agree. It's nice to see that we try to maintain these houses. They're beautiful homes down there.
There are, and that's one of our goals, and it's our goal throughout the town, not just New Hamburg. We're looking at other places around the town that have unique features, and we want to bring those forth to you in the future. And our goal is to be proactive. That is our goal.
John, you've done a great job even with other projects where it's not even been saving the whole building, it's been saving pieces. You've done the right thing, and whether it's a barn, a shed, or a piece of a property, you understand the importance of even the small piece. If you can't save everything, you've saved so many small pieces to other things. And as you said, in New Hamburg, there's still a lot out there that you still have possibly coming on the list. Some of the old barns, and it is worth the trip to New Hamburg just to look at some of the newer houses that were built down there. Took some of the features, like off the church and the house on Academy Street, has some of that architect built to it. So the people down there have a different kind of pride. And you see that in a lot of the older neighborhoods that are like that. They try to upgrade their houses, but it's not just an upgrade, it's to keep the character of the neighborhood. And you see some of the houses I knew down there were apartment houses, and there's one on Point Street that turned into a beautiful house over the years. And they've saved the garages, they saved pieces of the garages to indoor gardens. Everybody's got that little bit of a unique factor that they've always saved that little piece of history, because it was a very industrial neighborhood at one time.
Yes. And I just want to say, I want to thank our commission. They're all, as you know, they're all volunteers. They work very, very hard. The person that helped me with this too is Dan Fannin, who has a great background in architectural history. He's done a number of homes that he's restored himself in the past. So he's a great asset to our commission. He helped put this together with me. So I want to make sure that the entire commission gets recognition. It's not just John Pinna. I chair there and I orchestrate, but it's really the commission that puts the effort in.
And you're right, it's a great team. And Dan, thanks for your work in Hamburg. In fact, you live down there, you get that little hidden touch when you walk around and see what actually is down there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to speak to this public hearing?
If not, make a motion to close public hearing number 5.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas the Historic Preservation Commission of the Town of Poughkeepsie has made a recommendation to the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie for the designation a landmarks of properties located at 5, 15, and 19 Conklin Street, New Hamburg, New York. Grid numbers 13468-6057-07, -571898-000, 1346889-6057-07- 594892-000 and 1394698-6057-07- 600889-000, and whereas pursuant to Chapter 126 of the Town Code of the Town of Poughkeepsie, a public hearing was held on August 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town
of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, concerning such designation, public notice being given for said hearing, and all interested parties have the opportunity to be heard, and whereas that the legal notice of the public hearing was posted on July 15th, 2021, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on July 21st, 2021, and whereas the action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the NYS Environmental Quality Review Act, such that no further environmental review is necessary, now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby designate 5, 15, and 19 Conklin Street to be historic landmarks subject to all applicable rules and regulations found in Chapter 126 of the Code of the Town of Poughkeepsie, and be further resolved that the town clerk hereby authorized and directed to give appropriate notifications as required by the town code. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any questions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to the end of our public hearings. Item number 6 is set a date for a public hearing on comprehensive plan update. Before I read that, I'd like to turn it over to Councilman Carlos, who chaired that committee. He'd like to make a few comments prior to me reading this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This is something that last done in our town 14 years ago.
Bill, can you move your mic up a little? I'm sorry.
How's that?
That's good.
Last done in our town 14 years ago. 9 people stepped forward and came on a committee 3 years ago. Ann Shearson, my fellow councilperson, Jeff Renahan, my fellow councilperson, Jim Chaley, Yvonne Lowe, Mary Beth Rubenstein, Dan Salvatore, David Silver, Carl Whitehead, and myself. There were a lot of meetings. There was a field trip, all of us going to the different areas in town. Each one of those people, they come from different perspectives, had a lot of input on what the plan actually ends up being. We had a contractor that we used, Nelson Pope and Voorhees, and there's a document. This is the new plan, and we're submitting it to the town board. If there's anybody here from the committee that would like to speak, now's your chance. No. Well, I want to say publicly thank you very much for 3 years of work on this, which addresses the next 10 years in the life of our town. Thank you very much. Mr. Supervisor is going to have certificates available for you, and we'll make sure you get them. Thanking you. With the acceptance of the plan by the town board, we have to set our first public hearing on it, and we'll do that. I just wanted to, I've been in this town since 1974. I've been involved in it for a long, long time. This was a unique group of individuals who weren't here for what they could get or what they wanted. They were here to actually deeply concerned about our town. And I think the product that they produced is really, really good. So it's online if you want to see it, if you want to go through it. Please feel free to do that. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Yeah, Bill, I'd like to add to thank Mike Welty and Kristen Taylor for working through this as our in-house staff that kept the motor going, being that everybody else was a volunteer. They were here on a day-to-day basis, and they kept things in motion. And it was Mike's first project when he came on board, and he's followed it through, and it looks like he did a great job at it. Whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law, Chapter 272, the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee, CPRC, was established by the town board in 2018 by resolution as a special board to prepare an update to the town's comprehensive plan. Whereas the CPRC held 32 regular meetings, hosted 5 public workshops, and conducted a community survey to review and discuss ideas related to the comprehensive plan update over the last 3 years. And whereas the CPRC, along with its consultant team led by Nelson Pope and Voorhees, as well as town staff, prepared a draft comprehensive plan update dated May 2021 and made that document available for public review. And whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law, Chapter 272A6, the CPRC held a duly noticed public hearing at the draft comprehensive plan update on June 9th, 2021, and accepted written comments about the draft through June 18th, 2021. And whereas on June 30th, 2021, the CPRC met to consider comments received from the public and from the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, and made appropriate revisions to the draft comprehensive plan update in response to these comments. Whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law, Chapter 272A4, on June 30th, 2021, the CPRC adopted a resolution attached recommending its final draft comprehensive plan update with revisions made that date to the town board. And whereas the CPRC's final draft comprehensive plan, along with the draft full environmental assessment form, PEAF, prepared by the town's consultant, was formally transmitted to the town board this evening. Now therefore be resolved, the town board hereby states that because only the town board is empowered under New York State law to adopt a comprehensive plan or any amendment thereto, the town board is the only involved agency. The town board therefore declares that it is the lead agency for purposes of coordinating the environmental review of this matter pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law. Pursuant to New York State Town Law, Chapter 272A5, the town board hereby refers a proposed comprehensive plan update to the town planning board and to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Economic Development for their reviews and recommendations. Pursuant to New York State Town Law, Chapter 272A6, the town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed comprehensive plan update for September 1st, 2021, 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter comes to be heard in Town Hall, 1 Over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. The town board directs the town clerk to provide for public notice of said public hearing pursuant to New York State Town Law, Chapter 272A6. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. And I want to thank all those involved in this 3-year process.
Ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Didn't know if you're ready or not. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with regret the retirement of Colin Bell, Detective Sergeant with the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department, effective September 3rd, 2021. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah, I just want to thank Colin Bell for all his service to the town, and just, there was an instance where I was over at the courts, and I had to pick up the bat phone, it rings right to the police department, and Colin was over there before I was hanging up the phone, him and Bill Holland, so they do a lot day in and day out, and this is the culmination of his career, so I just want to thank him for all the time and service and what he's done, so.
Thanks. I wish him best of luck in his future endeavors. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 84, number 8 of 2021, whereas in order to remedy, a copy of which is attached here too, has been
This
issued.
has been withdrawn, sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
That was
No, this one
withdrawn.
has been withdrawn, so if you could read number 9.
It's withdrawn.
Yeah,
okay.
we set it on the agenda, but they took care of the lawn, and so Mary Jackson let me know, and we don't have to set the
Okay.
date for this public hearing.
So, we are now Resolution 84, number 9 of
Wait,
2021.
I have a question. So they took care of the lawn, but what about, this is the one that was,
No, this is
No,
across the
this is
street.
another one.
okay.
No, it's a
Yeah,
different one.
this is across the street.
Wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. All right.
Didn't mean to scare you, sorry.
Somebody just took that one over.
Yeah, number 9, go ahead, Bill.
Number 9 is the right one, right?
Yep.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Whereas the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie has heretofore received an application from Marist College for its family weekend tailgate party event to be held on Saturday, September 25th, 2021, from 2 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on the campus grounds. And whereas the presence of food vendors is a vital part of the successful tailgate party, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does not include the vendors of food participating in the Marist College Family Weekend Tailgate Party as peddlers and hawkers, and these vendors are thereby exempt from provisions of Chapter 151 of the Town Code. And be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive the open container law in the event alcoholic beverages are to be served, relating only to the area where this event is being held. All other state laws remaining in full force and effect, and be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application as submitted for said event to be held on Saturday, September 25th, 2021. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on this?
Yeah, I'm just surprised they don't have a rain date, but I guess it's rain or shine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby acknowledge receipt of a request on behalf of E Crab Incorporated, 2521 South Road, Suite C, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of the 30-day review for a liquor license application. And be it further resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the town clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent pursuant to the attached request. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application submitted by Stephen Farrell to hold a block party on Round Hill Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, from 39 Round Hill Road to 46 Round Hill Road on September 5, 2021, with a rain date of September 6, 2021, from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m., and does hereby authorize the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department Traffic Division to close said street, but allowing access for emergency vehicles from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive the open container law in the event alcoholic beverages are to be served. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the settlement of tax certiorari proceedings instituted by Rupson Corporation for the property located at 9 Fairmont Avenue, 536 Hague Avenue, and 546 Hague Avenue, Poughkeepsie, New York, 6161-08-917757, 6161-08-893760, and 6161-08-90578, and for the 2020 tax assessment rolls as shown on the attached consent judgment. And be further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor or his designee, Town Assessor Jennifer Mund, and Kyle Barnett, Vanderwater LLP, to sign such papers as necessary to effectuate said settlement. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Whereas the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie authorized the annual Arlington Street Fair on Saturday, September 18, 2021, and whereas the presence of informational displays, food vendors, handcraft artisans, and non-profit organizations is a vital part of a successful street fair, now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does not include the vendors of food and merchandise participating in the Arlington Street Fair as peddlers and hawkers. These vendors are thereby exempt from the provisions of Chapter 151 of the Town Code. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby waive the provisions of the noise ordinance in regard to the Arlington Street Fair between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on September 18, 2021. Be it further resolved that this exemption shall apply only to the street fair celebration on September 18, 2021. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby waive all permit fees relating to Arlington Street Fair on September 18, 2021 pursuant to the request from Arlington Business Improvement District dated July 26, 2021, a copy of which is attached. Be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby approved the closing of Raymond Avenue from the eastbound arterial to College View and Fulton Avenue intersection from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the Arlington Street Fair on Saturday, September 18, 2021. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Invite everybody out to the street fair.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby set the 18th day of August 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, as a time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider local law amendments to Town Code Chapter 195 entitled Vehicle and Traffic, specifically 195-38, Schedule 3, School Speed Limits, with the language to be added, underlined, and the language to be deleted, stricken as follow. Add to 195-38, Schedule 3, School Speed Limits, name of street, Kenry Road, speed limit 20, location, Kenry Road. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, having reviewed the annex short form EAF, adopts said EAF as presented, determines that this traffic control change is an unlisted action under SECRA, and further determines that it will conduct an uncoordinated environmental evaluation of it. And be it further resolved that the supervisor or his designee is authorized to seek the approval of the New York State Department of Transportation required for this action pursuant to Vehicle and Traffic Law 1622, and be it further resolved that the said local law, if adopted, shall become effective immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State, which filing shall be preceded by the receipt of the required approval of the New York State Department of Transportation. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 84, number 15 of 2021. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby confirm the appointment of Jessica Mooring as sub-register for the Town of Poughkeepsie through December 31st, 2021, at a stipend which is included in the town clerk's annual budget. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0.
Whereas the town board has considered adopting a local law pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law 10-1A 12, Town Law 67-7, to add Chapter 108 entitled Filming and Photography to the Town Code, whereas the proposed amendment is annexed hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein as if recited verbatim, and whereas the adoption of this local law requires a public hearing, and therefore be it resolved that after reviewing the draft local law and the Part 1 environmental assessment form annexed hereto at Exhibit B, this board determines that it is an unlisted action under New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and 2, because only the town board can consider and adopt changes to town code, is the only involved agency and declares itself the lead agency for purposes of conducting an uncoordinated seeker review of this action. And 3, this town board hereby sets a public hearing on the proposed local law, Chapter 108, for September 1st, 2021 at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter as the matter may come to be heard at Town Hall, 1 Arthur Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie hereby retains the law office of Zarin and Steinmetz, partner David Cooper, Esquire, at $427.50 per hour, $427.50 per hour, associates from $301 per hour, and paralegals $112.50 per hour to represent the town in the review of a potentially proposed pilot agreement in zoning matters in relation to the redevelopment of the former Schatz property. So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Second.
Any questions?
Question, yeah. Councilman Safone, this is the property that had all of those environmental concerns?
Yes.
It's significant, and it's
Yes.
through the whole piece of property?
Yes.
And that these buildings are gonna be maintained, just redone?
If, we still are a long way away, but the ultimate plan is to rehab the current buildings, not to do a new footprint.
But the environmental,
Everything would have to be cleaned up, yes.
so
On
that
both
may
the city side and
prevent,
the town side.
that may prevent keeping the building. They might have to go depending upon how bad the contamination is.
They've been in the buildings and they're pretty confident they can clean them.
Okay, good, good.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby consent to the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board acting as the seeker lead agency. Notice of intent paperwork can be found at the Town Clerk's office for the project known as Dunkin' Donuts, Vassar Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. Tax grid numbers 6260-03-495219, 497247, and 495227. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 6-0. Be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby adopt and certify the current base proportions as follows. Town homestead 54.00038, non-homestead 45.99962, town outside the village 51.62187, non-homestead 48.37813, consolidated light homestead 55.05959, non-homestead 44.94041, Spacken Hill School 49.90180, non-homestead 50.09820, Arlington School homestead 64.21456, non-homestead 35.78544, Wappinger School District, homestead 63.72702, non-homestead 36.27298. And whereas, and be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby adopt and certify the adjusted base proportions as follows. Town homestead 54.18911, non-homestead 45.81089, town outside the village 51.82948, non-homestead 48.17052, consolidated light 55.23520, non-homestead 44.76480, Spacking Hill School 49.85923, non-homestead 50.14077, Arlington School 64.22178, non-homestead 35.77822, Wappinger School District 64.07821, non-homestead 35.92179. So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions on those? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with appreciation a donation of $25 from Allison Floyd Adams in memory of Eileen Hovanek. And be resolved, further resolved, that said donation, which was made to our Recreation Department, will be used for the Senior Citizens Program for the Town Senior Center. So moved.
Second.
Good, motion and a second. Any questions or comments? I would just like to thank the Adams family for the donation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to the end of our agenda.
We got executive session, don't we? We still have, we got a way to go.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any item at all.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Would anybody like to discuss any item at all?
Doreen?
Come on up. Come on up.
I already,
Yeah, I told her already.
it'll just be a minute, Doreen. Somebody's coming up.
Hi, Georgette Martin, and I realize that if Mayor's College has an event on their property, there's really nothing people can do about it because it's their property. But as Mike knows, because you live in Ward 4, we really don't want to encourage parties or some big weekend event because it's very difficult living very close to Mayor's College. And if anybody wants to see some pictures, I have a lot of pictures on my phone to show you what it's like living next to kids that are away from home with alcohol and no adult supervision. I understand they're all very upright citizens, and when they graduate, they're our future. But right now, it's very difficult in our ward to live with these partiers. They've really ruined the whole atmosphere of the neighborhood. So I just want to tell you, I'm really stressed that the board has approved this party and encouraging more parties, whereas we, the neighborhood, is trying to discourage and find ways to stop these parties. I just, I understand every kid, it represents about $40,000, but we're the citizens, we're the residents that have to live with them. And really, I'm wondering if maybe you could have more police in the neighborhood at 8 o'clock when this party's over, because it's going to, when the parents go home, it's going to spill over into the street. And it's going to come to the houses that are rentals, and it's probably going to go all night. I mean, the kids are, if you walk the streets in Ward 4, by the Marist, you'll see red cups, bottles, cans, all over the place. We're littered with this kind of stuff. So I just wanted to say I'm really unhappy to hear that you've approved it. I just happened to come here for the gas station, and I can't believe what I saw.
I get it, because it's their family weekend, which I agree with you saying. Hopefully when the families leave, they'll stay. But Mike is also holding a meeting, I think, in another week with Marist to address their issues going forth this year. Now, we saw what happened with COVID last year. For a while, it was slowing down. And last year, it was, I think, back to getting to the point of out of control again. So I think we want to nip the bud early this year. And when's your meeting, Mike?
The 17th of August, 6 o'clock right here at Town Hall.
Yeah,
And we have Marist.
So
Marist will be here.
it's set to be here?
Yes.
On the 17th? Yeah, because we feel, the residents feel that last year there was COVID, there was, restrictions, and believe me, I seen them out on the lawn, drinking, shoulder to shoulder, no mask, yelling. They didn't follow the 6 feet, wear a mask, behave safely. We feel that when they come back this September, August, September, they're gonna come back with a vengeance. I mean, you know, now there's no restrictions. I could only imagine. I know what they were doing when there were restrictions. So, I know, I'm upset about it, and I'm sure we will discuss it on the 17th.
Yes, we will.
Georgette, I just want to say too that what they were really mostly approving was the fact that they're gonna have food trucks there, because it's not allowed on private property. So at least there'll be some food involved, so hopefully they'll be eating.
I think that's the parents. The kids are going, did I hear they were suspending the open container law?
I really
Yeah, I thought I heard that.
Just for that one area, so do they, I think they may have this event near the football field. I think it's strictly for the football team.
Oh, yeah, well,
It's family
you know,
weekend.
that's,
It's a family football event.
right, but if you
Family
suspended,
tailgate, I don't know.
if you suspended the open container, you know, it's like driving drunk drinking in Wappingers and saying it's okay to come to Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna walk across the street and then they're gonna be in our neighborhood.
But we're also gonna have representation from the student body as well, so hopefully the message will get out and we'll be able to, you know, speak. We'll have our community policing officer here as well, and we'll zoning and everything.
So
will
the
be
meeting's
here,
actually
so-
before this event too, which is
Yes.
helpful.
So,
Okay.
For you trying to be proactive would be a benefit. I give Mike credit for reaching out to Marist and having Marist and the police department all here as a group, and the residents to voice their concerns so Marist can hear it firsthand again.
Right, right.
And not
Mike's
that they
been
haven't heard it
very
before.
cooperative and very, active in this.
Oh, thank you.
Mike lives right next to a house that is a rental to the kids, so he knows, he understands, but I just wanted to voice my, opinion.
Well, that's what you're here for. No, we're
I
glad to
pay
hear
my
it.
taxes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Doreen?
Yes, I had a problem with my audio before, so I didn't hear what number 18 was. That did that pass 6-0?
I can't even find 18 in my packet. I'm a mess over here, so I don't know.
Yes, it passed 6-0.
All right. That was a Dunkin' Donuts one,
Yes.
Alicia.
Yeah,
Bassett
thanks. I'm
Road.
sure it's in this pile somewhere.
Okay, and then, so I want to, again, comment on the approval of the tax certs for Wupson Corporation. And I talk about this all the time, and, you know, you have these lower tax assessments, which just means that it then gets spread out among everyone else in the town. And so number 10 tonight was the liquor license for the seafood place at 2521 South Road. And back in May, that Selden Corporation that owns the plaza, they got a reduction. They got a tax cert. And I remember Jay saying that, well, you know, there were a lot of empty stores in that plaza. That's where Table Talk Diner used to be. Okay, so now there's the seafood place. They also just opened up a bakery a few months ago. So is the town going to assess them next year and take into consideration now that they have the income from these other places and raise the assessment?
Doreen, they do assess a lot of them year to year. I can't say they target everyone year to year. I'd have to ask our assessor what percentage she goes after every year. We did have a lot this year that she also settled out of court, or they didn't get anything. And I can get you that number too. So we only see the ones that are settled. We don't see the ones that have canceled and walked away, or they've made agreements prior to that were not money agreements. So I can get you that number too, Doreen. So you can see the ones that we didn't have, and we had our department head meeting, there was very few. She was surprised that actually put in for a tax cert this year. We were surprised there wasn't a lot more than that this year. Because a lot of them came in thinking COVID was their reason to come in, because as we all know, the commercials work on profit and loss besides just their footprint. So some of those other ones will be looked at. I just don't know off the top of my head what rate she looks at. Does she look at every one every year, or does she look at a certain percentage every year? But I'll ask her and get you that answer.
Thanks. Well, yeah, this one, you know, stuck in my mind because somebody asked a question about it. And I know, you know, Jay, you specifically said that, you know, Table Talk had left and the other, you know, a few of the other stores. And well, now there's stores in there. So, you know, my question is, how does that work the other way? And again, the tax certs and the pilots, And we'll see what happens with Schatz here, but, you know, the IDA, anybody that comes for a pilot gets one, so, you know, you're really the determining factor when it comes to for the town, because by the time it gets to the IDA, you know, they just rubber stamp it. So again, pilots and the tax certs, my opinion, they just cost the rest of the town taxpayers money. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dory. Anybody else? Come on up.
Mr. Baisley, we spoke on Friday.
And your name, sir?
Ronald Reardon. I live on
Yeah.
Elmendorf Drive. I dead end against Friendly Lane. A new party purchased on Friendly Lane in November. Okay, since March, the man has had approximately 19 parties. His home to the property line is 60 feet. My home is another 60 feet from the property line. With my windows and doors closed, at the other end of my house, in my living room, I hear his music. It doesn't matter if it's a children's party or an adult party. The music can start 1 o'clock in the afternoon and still be going. I've called the police 4 times now.
Do you know what number on Friendly Lane?
It's
I have.
19.
I live in the area. I've heard music and I don't know where it's coming from.
That's when we had the discussion, when I was
Yeah.
talking to her about it on Friday. She doesn't live that far, and we were wondering where it was coming from.
Where do you live?
I live on Van Wagner Road, right behind the bowling alley.
Okay, well,
It's somewhere. I don't know. where.
you're up further away, but, you know, this music, I mean, and look, the reason why I'm the only one complaining, there's nobody to the left of me, there's nobody to the right of me. You know, I have a large piece of property, and the closest house to me is up the street and across the street. And even he came to me a couple weeks ago, and, you know, he said, Ron, what's going on with that guy? I said, look, I can't tell you, the guy loves parties. And again, it was like 10 days ago, they had a children's party, babies to maybe 10 years old, with the music blasting unbelievably.
Is it late at night? I'm just asking.
Look, I go to bed 9 o'clock.
It's not a matter- I don't think the way Mr. Reardon was explaining, it's not a matter of being late at night, it's a matter of the intrusion into his house when we
Well,
spoke.
yeah, and the thing, you know, look, the noise ordinance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many different things that I think pertain to me. It says that, you know, with a warning that, you know, he could be ticketed after this.
Mhm.
I spoke to the police department, you know, a week ago, and I was told, you know, look, it's hard to prove. What do you mean hard to prove? You can hear it. Look, I've been in this house 40 years. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna live. I don't wanna put up with this for the rest of my life. You know, can somebody please tell me what rights I have to get this to stop?
You know, when we drafted that law, one of the sticking points to me is, if you read it, it says the character of the neighborhood. And particularly for me in the Fourth Ward, when the college kids aren't there, the character of the neighborhood is pretty quiet. Other than traffic, it's pretty quiet.
It's
When
perfectly
college
quiet.
kids are back, guess what? The character of the neighborhood changes, but it always seems to change towards the college kids, because the noise ordinance says it could be 10 o'clock. But if you read the character of the neighborhood, hey, this is a neighborhood, that 10 o'clock really shouldn't be the 10 o'clock keying point for the character of the neighborhood. So I agree with you 100%, that your character, your neighborhood is quiet for the most part, except for one person. That have you ever talked to this person?
I mean, 1 or 2 I can understand, but 19, that's, I like my music and parties, but that seems like a
He
lot.
did say that he was gonna lower it, and it
Could he
hasn't
maybe
happened.
just turn it and face it the other way? Because obviously it just carries to your...
Thanks, Mike. Really good fight.
Oh, I'm sorry, well, you got the ball now, the pins are knocked down.
See, that I don't know, you know, even Mr. Baisley the other day, you know, he said, look, find out where the speakers are pointed.
Yeah,
I mean, but still.
I
you know.
understand every,
But I get it, I mean, there should be some common sense to our laws that, you know, a normal person without a, what do you call those machines?
Noise meter?
Noise meters, should theoretically say, you know, if I can hear it from the property line, yeah, it's a little loud, let's turn it down a little bit. So hopefully we can come to that common ground.
Were they out there this weekend again?
I'm sorry?
Were they out there again this weekend, or?
Oh, it was quiet.
We did call the police department and asked them to enforce and make sure they let them know that this is an ongoing, because the officers do change. It's not the same officer every week, to let them know
Right.
this is an ongoing issue, and I did get a message back from the chief that he would
Yeah,
address that with
because,
in-house staff.
you know, in the ordinance, you know, it says the noise intrudes, you know. You know, and again, my bedroom is at the closest end of that, and, you know, look, we've called 11 o'clock at night. That was back in probably March or April, you know, when this first started happening. You know, prolonged duration. You know, again, this guy can start 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it's still blaring, you know, 9 o'clock.
Again, that's where the character of the neighborhood comes in, and you gotta ask for a little
What-
you know, a little
what-
leniency, but, I mean, character of the neighborhood does play a role, so if your
What-
neighborhood's quiet normally, you know, it really should be.
What might I say to the police department? I mean, I see this man is here. What can I say that, look, they've talked to him 4 times. They go there, he turns it down. Now, the last time he turned it down, about a half hour, an hour later, it blared for a minute, stopped. 15 minutes later, blared for a minute, stopped. So it's almost like, you know, hey, you know, I'm gonna get you, you know? So I don't know.
Well, our police force does do a very good job in trying to enforce it. Unfortunately, there's not, you know, they can't be everywhere every minute of the day.
Right.
No, we reached back out to him, and the chief understands that it's not a single issue. As you stated, if it was a party once a year, we could live it once a year. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be every
right.
week. Yeah.
You know, again, this is 18 or 19 times since March. The first party in March, 35 degrees outside. I mean, you know, that's hardcore party.
I'll follow back up with him again, but I did email him as soon as I spoke to you, and he said
Okay.
he will put it on there to notify him that, you know, this is an ongoing issue, not a one-time. I'll talk to the captain.
So, I mean, I do have a leg to stand on then, right?
I think so, yes,
Alrighty.
yes.
Thank you.
Intrusion's an intrusion, it comes to the point of, as you even said the other day, that your neighbor on the other side of you, who was probably another 100 feet away, is hearing it
He's a
now.
couple
Yeah.
100 feet further than me.
Problem is noise carries, especially.
And again, you know, that I'm the only one in this direct
Yeah,
area
you're
from
down
his
the
house.
cul-de-sac.
That's why I'm the only one complaining. There's nobody else around me.
Felicia complained.
sort of, we had a discussion, because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some issues with different areas of noise in the town, so.
And we're wondering where it's all coming from here.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reardon.
Good night.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Reardon.
Close it first, sir.
Make a motion, resume the rules.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby adjourn to executive session to consider the following: the medical, financial credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, to discuss matters which are exempt under the open meeting law, including matters subject to attorney-client privilege. So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Town board goes in executive session at 8:35.